Colombian drug cartels were so powerful that Colombia became a failed state. You think the fentanyl problem is bad now? What about 3 years from now when the Mexican drug cartels are more powerful than the Mexican state itself?
Soy un narcotraficante y trabajo para el cartel de Sinaloa. Yo me dedico mucho al cristal, al perico y al fentanilo.
July 1999, a cartel co-leader sits down for a meeting with his best friend and business partner. By the end of the meeting, the friend is dead, and the killer now runs the entire Gulf cartel. They call him the friend killer, and he's now one step away from becoming the boss of all bosses within the cartel. To understand that betrayal, you need to understand every rank of the cartel pyramid, from lookout to boss. So here's what every Mexican cartel rank is like.
In the first 6 months of Sheinbaum's presidency, thousands of suspected cartel members have been arrested, and more than 140 tons of drugs have been seized.
Halcons, the bottom of the pyramid, the youngest rank, the most expendable. A halcon is a lookout, 12-hour shifts at intersections, hotel entrances, gas stations, and bus terminals, calling out the movements of police, soldiers, and rival gangs over coded radio or burner phones. Most halcones are teenagers. Some are 12 years old. The pay in Reynosa is 4,000 pesos every 2 weeks, about $105 a week. That's where this rank used to be a story. But on March 5th, 2025, a volunteer search collective called Buscadores Guerreros de Jalisco, mothers searching for their disappeared children, walked into an abandoned ranch in the town of Teotitlán. The ranch was called Rancho Izaguirre. What they found there has redefined what the bottom of the cartel pyramid actually means. Hundreds of pairs of shoes were scattered across the ground like a grade school fire drill. Over 400 pieces of clothing, 3 hand-built crematoriums, charred human remains. The ranch had been operating from May 2024 until the day the mothers showed up. It was a CJNG forced recruitment camp. Recruits, many of them teenagers, had answered fake security guard ads on Facebook and TikTok offering $200 to $600 a week. When they arrived, their phones were confiscated. They were locked inside. They were trained as halcones first, then as sicarios. Survivors testified that fellow recruits who failed weapons drills or tried to escape were doused in gasoline and burned alive in front of the rest of the group. Mexico's official disappeared count is over 125,000 people. More than 15,000 of those are in Jalisco alone. The mothers of Buscadores Guerreros believe Rancho Izaguirre is one of dozens of similar facilities still operating across the country. The CJNG commanders running the ranch, Gonzalo Mendoza Gaitan and a man known only as Comandante Lastra, were arrested. The official Mexican government position per Security Minister Omar Garcia Harfuch is that Rancho Izaguirre was a training center. The Buscadores and U.S. Republican Congressman Riley Moore have called it an extermination camp. The halcon rank used to be a kid on a bicycle with a radio. The halcon rank is now a kid who answered a Facebook ad and never came home. This is the bottom of the pyramid that everyone above it depends on.
A man who turned 90 today spent his birthday before a federal judge.
But Leo Sharp's age was not enough to earn him a get-out-of-jail card.
This is the case of the world's oldest drug courier, Leo Sharp, who was imprisoned at the age of 90 after delivering cocaine for a Mexican cartel.
In October 2011, a Michigan state trooper pulled over a black Lincoln Mark LT pickup truck on a highway outside Detroit. The driver was 87 years old, a World War II veteran, a Bronze Star recipient who'd fought at Anzio, a respected horticulturist who bred award-winning daylilies. His name was Leo Sharp. The trooper's drug dog hid on the truck bed. Inside, locked beneath a tarp, was 104 kilograms of Sinaloa cartel cocaine. When the trooper started asking questions, Leo Sharp looked at him and said,
"Why don't you just kill me and let me just leave the planet?"
Clint Eastwood made a movie about him, The Mule, 2018. What the movie didn't fully capture was that Leo Sharp had been moving 200 to 300 kilograms per run, well over a ton of cocaine total, for the Sinaloa cartel over multiple years. He earned about $1.25 million. He was 87 years old. That's the mullah rank, the drug smuggler. And it's not always young men with face tattoos. Sometimes it's a Bronze Star veteran in his late 80s with a flatbed full of daylilies and a hidden compartment full of bricks. The polero, the human smuggler, is the same rank, different cargo. According to the U.S. Border Patrol Tucson sector chief, now nobody crosses without paying the cartels. The fees range from $10,000 for a regional run to over $100,000 for a long-haul migrant journey. ICE estimates the cartels make between $2 and $13 billion a year just from human smuggling.
Over the past few years, Sharp transported more than a ton of cocaine from the south into Michigan and was paid over $1 million. Today, his attorney argued Sharp is a war vet with no criminal history and was forced by the Mexican cartel to transport the cocaine or his family would be killed.
The horror of this rank is the body count. In June 2022, 53 migrants suffocated to death inside a tractor trailer abandoned outside San Antonio, Texas. In November 2019, the Juarez-affiliated La Linea cartel murdered 9 American Mormon dual citizens, including 6 children, in Sonora as a smuggling route warning. In October 2023, Mexican soldiers opened fire on a migrant cargo truck near Tapachula, killing 6 people, including an Egyptian national. A Dominican craftsman named Rafaelín Martinez Castillo, 31 years old, calluses still on his hands from the woodshop, died when his trailer crashed in Mexico in 2023. He'd kissed his mother goodbye 3 days earlier. Mules and poleros are rarely cartel insiders. They're desperate civilians, single mothers, retirees, migrants who couldn't afford to cross and got drafted into smuggling as the price of crossing themselves. The cartel doesn't care who dies in the trailer. The cartel only cares that the trailer keeps moving.
And what does a hitman at a Mexican cartel do?
You take care of the dirty work, you know. I was more addicted to adrenaline of what I could do with the rifle, what I can do with the pistol.
A hitman in Juarez named Saul A., using a fake first name to protect what's left of his family, sat down with Fox San Antonio and told them the math of his profession. He started killing at 15. He killed for the next 11 years. His pay was 2,000 pesos a week, about 105 American dollars. When asked if he'd rather die in a shootout or rot in jail, he said he'd rather die. Because in prison, what could he offer his woman? That's the sicario rank, the trigger man, the most romanticized job in the entire cartel pyramid, and statistically, the one with the worst expected lifespan. According to most Mexican investigators, the average sicario does not live past 5 years on the job. The pay isn't romantic either. A Reynosa-based Zeta hitman named El Javi testified at his Cancun murder trial that he earned 8,000 pesos a month, about $400 US, plus per kill bonuses. The Daily Beast interviewed a CJNG sicario named Capache, who joined the cartel at 14 in the town of Ocotito. He served in a 35-man personal bodyguard platoon for a regional commander known only as 090, chosen, Capache said, because 090 is the radio code for homicide on the federal police network. Capache survived 7 major firefights. The Daily Beast asked him what training was like. He said he watched recruits get doused in gasoline and burned alive in front of the rest of the group for failing weapons drills. He watched others wrapped in explosives and detonated as a punishment for trying to escape. This is not hyperbole. This is documented testimony. Then there's the San Fernando massacre. August 2010. The Zetas pulled 72 Central and South American migrants off long-distance buses in Tamaulipas. They took them to a ranch. They lined them up against a wall. They asked who would join the cartel as sicarios. The migrants who said no were shot one by one. One man, Luis Freddy Lala Pomavilla, an Ecuadorian, faked death and walked miles with a bullet still in his neck to a military checkpoint. He was the only survivor. Z40, Miguel Treviño Morales, the leader of the Zetas, was indicted for ordering both the 2010 massacre and a second one in 2011 that killed 193 more migrants, whose bodies were found in mass graves. He was finally extradited to the United States in February 2025. 40 years late, the sicario lifestyle gets songs written about it. The sicario reality usually ends with an unmarked grave.
Bueno, vemos acá, esta es un área de concentración, aquí tienen los productos químicos. Vienen, trabajan 2-3 horas, producen 50, 20, 50 kilos, 100 kilos de metanfetamina, terminan y se van y se llevan la producción.
In December 2024, a New York Times reporter put on a hazmat suit and walked into a Sinaloa cartel fentanyl kitchen in the hills outside Culiacan. The men actually making the drug, the cocineros, were wearing surgical masks. just surgical masks. They were pouring white powder into stock pots and stirring it with what looked like a kitchen immersion blender. Nailed to a fence post outside the lab was a hand-painted sign, Para Hacer Trato, cell phone. If you want to make a deal, call this number. An open offer to bribe any soldier who happened to wander up the mountain. That's the cocinero rank. The cook, the man who turns precursor chemicals from Chinese suppliers into the fentanyl, methamphetamine, and heroin that gets shipped to the United States. The pay is better than almost any other middle-tier role. According to a meth cook named Bernardo, interviewed by Public Radio International in Michoacan, a freelance cook earns about $1,000 per kilo produced. According to the New York Times, in 2025, the Sinaloa cartel started recruiting actual chemistry students from Mexican universities, offering them $800 up front plus $800 a month. That's roughly twice what a legal Mexican chemist would earn. The job? Develop fentanyl precursors from scratch, so the cartel can stop depending on Chinese suppliers entirely, the holy grail of synthetic drug production. According to a leaked 2020 Mexican intelligence report cited by Insight Crime, the Sinaloa cartel had been actively trying to enlist chemistry professors. One Sinaloa professor told Insight Crime that students had begun signing up for chemistry courses at his university with the sole intention of learning how to synthesize narcotics. The danger is the chemistry itself. Fentanyl is potent in micrograms. The fumes are toxic, lab raids are constant, and cooks are usually the first targets when a faction war breaks out, because every kilo they produce is worth tens of thousands of dollars at retail. Take out the cook, you take out the cash flow. The most disturbing part isn't the chemistry, it's the recruitment pool. The Sinaloa cartel isn't recruiting hardened criminals to make fentanyl, it's recruiting university kids.
Federal prosecutors in Southern California have announced a historic bust, charging 24 suspects in connection with an alleged money laundering scheme between Mexico's Sinaloa drug cartel and Chinese brokers, while seizing millions of dollars in drugs, including 300 pounds of cocaine.
Money laundering is the backbone of criminal enterprise. It enables drug trafficking organizations to purchase and distribute fentanyl and other drugs.
This is the rank that almost nobody knows about, and it's the rank that makes everything else possible. For CJNG, the financial arm is called Los Queenies, named after a fast-breeding Mexican squirrel. It's run by El Mencho's brothers-in-law, the Gonzalez Valencia brothers. According to U.S. court documents, Los Queenies invested in 4,000-kilo cocaine shipments delivered by semi-submersibles from Colombia to Guatemala. They hid drugs inside frozen shark carcasses. They laundered money through Bolivian Zebu cattle ranches. Jose Chepa Gonzalez Valencia spent the years 2015 to 2017 living openly in Bolivia under a fake name, Jafet Arias Becerra, as a respectable Zebu cattle breeder in an exclusive residential complex. He flew in and out of the country whenever he wanted. He was finally caught in 2017 at a beach resort in Brazil while vacationing with his family. June 2025, after 8 years of extradition fights, he was sentenced to 30 years in a D.C. federal courtroom. That's the lavador lifestyle. You're not hiding in the jungle. You're building a second life as a respectable businessman in another country. You own cattle ranches, gas stations, currency exchanges, and racehorse breeding operations. You're a millionaire, sometimes a billionaire, and your neighbors think you sell hay. Then there's Genaro Garcia Luna, Mexico's Secretary of Public Security under President Felipe Calderón, the man who was supposed to lead the war on the cartels. According to El Vicentillo's testimony, Garcia Luna personally pocketed over $50 million in pooled bribes from the Sinaloa cartel. He was sentenced in October 2024 to 460 months, over 38 years, in U.S. federal prison and fined $2 million, the highest-ranking Mexican official ever convicted in an American courtroom. This rank is where the cartel buys the government, and it's where you get caught not by guns, but by bank statements. The lavador never dies in a shootout. He gets indicted, he gets extradited, and he gets a sentence so long that no Mexican president can save him. For the cartel, that's actually a feature, not a bug. A dead Plaza boss tells no tales. A 30-year-old extradition file with a chain of custody sitting in a federal vault. That's where the real damage gets done.
su parte, autoridades federales confirmaron que en la balacera ocurrida ayer en Puerto Peñasco, Sonora, murió Gonzalo Insunza, alias el Macho Prieto, identificado como un operador del cártel del Chapo Guzmán. La Comisión Nacional de Seguridad dijo que si bien no fue recuperado el cuerpo, existe una certeza del 99% de que se trataba del narcotraficante.
December 18th, 2013, a beachfront villa with a hot tub still warm from the night before. But right now, Mexican Marines have surrounded it. Inside, a man named Gonzalo Insunza, known across Sinaloa as El Macho Prieto, is reaching for a .50 caliber Barrett rifle, the kind of rifle designed to shoot down helicopters. And helicopters are exactly what he's about to need. For the next 2 hours, El Macho Prieto and his men dueled the Mexican military with grenades, bazookas, and anti-aircraft rifles. By the time it was over, the hot tub was full of blood and bullet casings, and his body had vanished. His own men had carried him out through a hidden passage. He's never recovered. That's what a jefe de sicarios looks like at the top of his game. 80+ murders attributed to his name. A personal narco corrido that opens with the line,
I introduce myself with bullets, with grenades, and with bazookas.
And a death scene that reads as a final boss fight in a video game. The jefe de sicarios sits below the kingpin tier, but above every other operator in the cartel. He runs a death squad, usually 20 to 50 sicarios, organized into cells. He's the man Edgar Valdez Villarreal, La Barbie, was when he hung 4 decapitated bodies from a Cuernavaca bridge in August 2010 to send a message to a rival faction. He's the man Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, El Chino Antrax, was when he ran El Mayo Zambada's personal hit squad and posted Paris Hilton selfies on Instagram between executions. The pay is real, so are the perks. Gold-plated rifles, custom Range Rovers, mansions in Zapopan and Mazatlan. But here's the catch nobody puts in the corridos. When El Chino Antrax cooperated with the DEA in San Diego and got out of custody in 2020, he fled back to Culiacan. Within 9 days, he was tortured, shot in the head, and dumped wrapped in cloth inside a BMW. His sister and brother-in-law were in the trunk. That's the truth of this rank. The cartel doesn't promote you because you're loyal. They promote you because you're useful. And the moment you stop being useful, or worse, the moment they think you might be talking, the same crew you trained turns the guns on you. Most jefes de sicarios don't get to celebrate their 35th birthday.
Audius Flores Silva, known as El Jardinero, is a commander in the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Officials say he was arrested in the northwest region of Nayarit in an operation carried out by Naval Special Forces. Reports say the operation was the result of 19 months of surveillance and shared information from the United States.
Most people don't realize how dangerous the second-in-command position is. The boss of bosses gets the gold AKs and the Forbes profile. The underboss gets the visibility, the workload, and the bullet meant for the boss. May 8th, 2008, a Culiacan shopping mall parking lot. Edgar Guzman Lopez, El Chapo's 22-year-old son and one of his designated lieutenants, is sitting in his SUV. A team of sicarios opens fire. They leave 500 AK-47 casings on the asphalt before the engine even stops running. Some sources allege the man who ordered the hit was El Macho Prieto on a wrong target mistake. Others say it was deliberate. Either way, the message was clear. The underboss rank is where the cartel war actually gets fought. Vicente Zambada Niebla, El Vicentillo, was groomed for this position from the age of 15. El Mayo's son, El Chapo's godson. He coordinated cocaine trains, container ships, submarines, and Boeing 747s carrying tens of tons of product from Colombia to Mexican distribution hubs. According to his Brooklyn courtroom testimony, during one meeting in the Sinaloa Mountains, the Flores twins from Chicago saw a naked man being tortured on the road leading up to El Chapo's compound. That was an ordinary day at the underboss level. 2009, El Vicentillo was arrested in Mexico City. He flipped almost immediately. He testified against El Chapo in 2018, helping deliver the conviction that put his godfather in ADX Florence forever. The U.S. government rewarded him with a 15-year sentence, of which he served less than 10. He was released into witness protection around 2021. His own family, the Zambadas, has officially disowned him. Ruben El Menchito Oseguera Gonzalez, was El Mencho's son and second in command of the CJNG for nearly 7 years. The Department of Justice alleges he personally trafficked 50 metric tons of cocaine and supervised meth labs that produced over 1,000 metric tons of methamphetamine. On March 7, 2025, he was sentenced to life plus 30 years and ordered to forfeit $6 billion personally. Then there are the Chapitos, El Chapo's 4 sons. Ovidio Guzman Lopez pleaded guilty in July 2025. Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the man who kidnapped El Mayo, pleaded guilty in December 2025. Ivan Archivaldo and Jesus Alfredo are still fugitives, with $10 million on each of their heads. Underbosses either get promoted, get killed, or get the deal. There is no fourth path.
This week, Mexican authorities proudly trumpeted their arrest of the notorious drug lord known as El Maro, or the Sledgehammer. Jose Antonio Ortiz is the leader of the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel. He and his gang have been terrorizing the state of Guanajuato for years. They're believed to have murdered hundreds of people as part of their drug trafficking, extortion, and various other criminal rackets.
Imagine owning a city, not running a business in it, owning it. Every kilo of cocaine that crosses the bridge into Texas, you tax it. Every restaurant on the main avenue, you tax it. Every shipment of fentanyl precursors coming in through the port, you tax it. Every Mexican Marine who patrols your streets, you've already paid it. That's a Plaza boss. The regional commander, the man who controls a border corridor, a port, or an entire state. The Arzate Garcia brothers, Rene La Rana and Alfonso Aquiles, ran the Tijuana Plaza for the Sinaloa cartel for 15 straight years. In February 2026, the U.S. State Department put a $5 million bounty on each of their heads and charged them with narco-terrorism. They've been moving every gram of fentanyl that crosses through California for over a decade. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, El Viceroy, ran the Juarez Plaza after his brother Amado died on the operating table. According to Texas Monthly's reporting, Vicente used to dine in public restaurants in Juarez with senior Mexican police officials at his table, not in some private back room, at a window seat in full view, where everyone could see exactly who answered to whom. That's the lifestyle. You're not a fugitive, you're a feudal lord, local royalty. The mayor calls you before he announces a new policy. The chief of police asks for your input on hires. The catch is that your own boss watches you closer than the cops do. 2002, when Z1, Arturo Guzman de Sena, the founder of Los Zetas, got too powerful as a plaza boss. His own boss, Oziel Cardenas Guillen, reportedly had him killed in a Matamoros restaurant. That's the same Cardenas who was nicknamed the Friend Killer for ordering his own bodyguard to shoot a man seconds after the man's daughter's baptism, where Cardenas himself had just stood as godfather. Plaza bosses don't get killed by the law, they get killed by promotion. October 2014, when El Viceroy was finally arrested, he was hunted with $5 million and 2 million Mexican pesos on his head. He got 28 years in a Mexican prison. In February 2025, after a phone call between Donald Trump and the Mexican president about tariffs, he was extradited to the United States along with 28 other cartel figures, including Rafael Caro Quintero, the man who tortured DEA agent Kiki Camarena to death in 1985. Caro Quintero was arraigned in a Brooklyn courtroom in handcuffs that had Camarena's name engraved on the inside. 40 years between the murder and the courtroom. Plaza bosses live a long time. They don't always live free.
The U.S. government says El Chapo's son tricked El Mayo into boarding a plane from Mexico to the U.S. But a lawyer for El Mayo says his client was actually kidnapped.
The man who lured El Mayo Zambada onto that plane in July 2024 was his own godson. The man who got betrayed had been the most untouchable trafficker in the history of the drug war. 50 years of moving cocaine, never spent a single night in prison, outlasted El Chapo. Outlasted the entire founding generation of the Sinaloa cartel. And then his closest ally's son walked him into a hood and a propeller plane. The man who lured El Mayo Zambada onto that plane in July 2024. This is the apex rank, jefe de jefes, Capo Maximo, El Padrino, the man who decides which presidents get bribed and which ones get buried, the man whose net worth Forbes once estimated at $1 billion, a number El Chapo's prosecutors later inflated to over $12 billion at sentencing. The man who, according to courtroom testimony from his own former operators, set aside roughly $1 million every single month under 3 Mexican presidencies just for political bribes. El Chapo lived this rank. He had a private zoo in Guadalajara with panthers, crocodiles, and a passenger train for guests. He owned a $10 million Acapulco mansion. He carried a diamond-encrusted pistol with his initials on the grip. According to one prosecutor, he reportedly lost $66 million in a single night gambling in Macau and didn't blink, and he died, metaphorically, alone, in a concrete cell in ADX Florence, Colorado, writing letters complaining about his cruel punishment. El Mayo's downfall was even more cinematic. According to his own lawyer's letter, he walked into what he thought was a meeting at a ranch outside Culiacan. The room had a floor-to-ceiling glass window. The window was suddenly removed. Men poured in through the gap. He was knocked to the ground, hooded, zip-tied, sedated, and flown to Santa Teresa, New Mexico, where U.S. federal agents were already waiting on the tarmac. December 1st, 2025, Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the godson who pulled the trigger on this betrayal, pleaded guilty in a Chicago courtroom. He admitted everything under oath. He'd done it to get cooperation credit for himself and his brother, Ovidio. The boss of bosses' lifestyle is the most extravagant on earth. The boss of bosses' fate is almost always the same. You die in a marine raid like Arturo Beltran Leyva did in his Cuernavaca apartment in 2009. You die during plastic surgery like Amado Carrillo Fuentes did, trying to change his face in 1997. Or you spend the rest of your life in a windowless cell in Colorado, writing letters nobody answers. There is no third option. The pyramid never lets the man at the top retire. The cartel ranks aren't a hierarchy, they're a meat grinder. The boss of bosses sits on top of it. The halcón gets fed into it. And every single day, in every single state, the line keeps moving forward.